too, you guys. They only really give you 15 minutes to do your recording or whatever else you got to do. But anywho, it started helping me, the infusions and stuff. I started getting better. My eyes started clearing up. You know, my kidneys and stuff, they started getting better and stuff. So, I was just like, you know, okay. And then after the, infusions or whatever, I went back and see my doctor, and she was like, oh, your levels and stuff are doing good and stuff like that. And she was like, well, maybe this is all you needed was the infusions. And I was like, yeah, good. And, you know, we sent me on my way. So I wasn't having any more eye problems. I wasn't having any more, kidney problems. Everything seemed to be going back to normal, doing good. The one thing I will tell you about lupus, I started getting more tired. I felt like I didn't want to do stuff no more. I had to push myself to do stuff. Sometimes in the morning time, I barely couldn't walk, or sometimes I would get up out my bed and I would just collapse. I just couldn't move. And sometimes that would be scary. Sometimes I didn't even tell my family what I was going through because I didn't want them to worry about me. I didn't want them to stress about me. And at the time I was living with my parents, and that's another story time within itself. Well, I'm not going to say parents. I was living with my dad. And like I said, that's another story within itself. I would say the doctors did tell me the pros and cons about having lupus. Now, the person that I am, I always like to see it firsthand for myself. So, one of the things they told me about if I wanted to have children. My one doctor, she just summed it up and said, don't have children. She never told me why I don't have children. She never told me the outcome of having children. She just said, do not have children. The other doctors, they told me if I did want to have children, it's a protocol that I had to go through because I would just be at a higher risk of having kids. Well, like I said, the person that I am, I'm going to prove, well, I'm just going to say they kind of proved me wrong. I mean, well, they kind of was right. I'm not going to say they proved me wrong, but they were right. And I was wrong, but I'm just that person that I always loved kids. I always been around kids. I always babysitted kids. It's just I had a passion for kids and I wanted kids. Even though my doctor, like I said don't have kids, I was just determined to have kids. And Xavion, I got pregnant. And my lupus started acting up again. I had faith in God. I am a strong believer of God. If God wants me to have kids, he will put kids in my life. That's just where I am at. So I did, you know, having Xavion, I had to make sure I was going to my OBGYN. I had to make sure I was going to my regular appointments, and I had to make sure I was doing everything I needed. My doctor, she was very disappointed in me. She was very disappointed in me. And she was just making sure, you know, it wasn't really nothing she could do because it was out of her hands. But you could tell the look on her face. She was very disappointed in me. And at the time, I just had this cocky attitude like, well, shit, I don't, my bad. Well, I said, you know, I don't care or whatever. You're not living my life. You're not going to be raising this child and this and this and this and that. That was just a cocky attitude that I had at the time. Going forward, everything seemed to be, you know, going good again. They got my levels back up, you know, and stuff like that. So everything seemed to be going cool. Okay, I would do story time about Xavion and Nevaeh later on down, but right now this is just my lupus story. Having my child, having Xavion, I did pretty good with having him. It was a C-section because his heart rate dropped, and like I said, that's another story within itself. It didn't have really nothing to do with my lupus. It had more so of them popping my water and letting me sit there or whatever. and doing that. But that's the only complications that I really had or whatever. Having Xavier, I'm just gonna say having Xavier, it was pretty easy. I'm not gonna say because I had the support. I was living with my dad at the time, and I just had the support that I needed. So if I needed to take a rest or anything, or if I was overly tired and stuff like that, I just had my dad, and we were all in the house, and we were all, you know, I was just supported. Now things turned for the worse for me having my second child. I'm not going to go into details, like I said, about the delivery because that's another story within itself. But having my second child, things got really hard on me. Like, I was super tired. Tired more than I was with the first child. I just didn't have the energy. I lost, oh yeah, and then I did lose a lot of blood with both of them. And just getting my strength back up, trying to come home and, you know, having all these responsibilities on having 2 kids, not just one, but having 2 kids. I just didn't know how stressful that was. And at the time I did change doctors, but I did get my tubes tied afterwards because I'm like, oh no, I'm not doing this again. Oh no, I'm just done. I'm over with it. But like I said, that's another story within itself. I can remember when I had my second child, I had my own place. I wasn't living with my dad no more. So I just wanted to get that out the way. I wasn't living with my dad. I had my own place. It was me and my sister. So once again, I did have the support that I needed with the Nevaeh, but it was much harder. I didn't tell people how hard it was, or I didn't tell people what I was going through or how I was going through. I was just living my life on a day-to-day basis. Even though I was in a lot of pain, I really didn't ask for help because I didn't want people to look down on me or be like, oh, well, she shouldn't have had the second child, and she knows she got this damn disease and this and this and this and that. I didn't want to hear people. So basically, I struggled through it, but I did have help at the time. I'm not going to say I didn't have help, but I just didn't ask for the help. So my levels and stuff started going back down. They started getting worse again. They started doing this. And you got to keep in mind, having 2 kids almost 2 years apart, it was very hard. Because it's like, you got to stay healthy to take care of them babies. Because if you don't take care of them babies, ain't nobody else going to take care of them babies like you do. So it was very hard trying to keep up with their appointments, trying to keep up with my appointments, making sure that my lupus stayed intact. And, you know, it just took a downfall where sometimes I question my life. Well, Vanessa, why did you do this to yourself? Or why would you put yourself in this situation? You know, I started looking back on it like, man, my doctor was right. I shouldn't have did this, but this is what I wanted. So, but, you know, at the back of my head, I said, God got me. Because if he didn't want me to have these babies, I wouldn't have had them. So God must have a plan for me. I just don't know what it is yet. But I guess I'll figure that out later on down the life. I just got to keep pushing for me. At the time, things started getting hard for me. My dad started getting sick where he needed me, where they were, you know, wanting to put him in the nursing home and stuff like that. But I decided being the humble person I am and being daddy's little girl, my dad's not going into a nursing home. So I gave up my place and I moved back in with my dad. Now you have to remember, my dad's sick, I'm sick, and I have to take care of 2 kids. Tell me about it. Things got rocky. I don't know if it was just the stress that I was going through or what, but my levels once again started dropping low. Sorry about that, you guys. My levels got really low again. I was in and out the hospital again. I refused to stay in the hospital because you don't have to, like, now, if I wouldn't say it was severe, but they did want to keep me overnight. And I'm like, I can't do that no more. I have responsibilities. I have kids, but if it's not like life threatening or whatever, I'm not staying in the hospital. I just couldn't do it. At the time, I know they did, admit me a couple of times because they was just like, Vanessa, you can't keep walking around here like this, or you're going to walk out the house and you're going to be dead on the ground somewhere, or you're going to collapse on the ground. So that's when I had to start taking things serious. My brother, I know he said, you know what, just let me know. I can fly up there. I can fly up there. I had help. My sister said, let me know. I just wanted to do things by myself because I didn't want to be a failure. So sometimes my boyfriend would take them if I really had to stay in the hospital. I stayed in the hospital a couple of times. I got out. You know, they got everything back under control. I got out. Luckily, I didn't have, like, I have seen a lot of lupus stories, and I didn't have to get no kidney transplant or nothing like that, thank God. And it was just the side effects. It was just that I was sleepy. I was losing a lot of blood, and then me being anemic. It was just all that. If they could control all that was going on in my body, I felt perfectly fine, besides being tired and not wanting to do nothing and collapsing and stuff like that. I did pretty good for the most part, but I'm just saying, if I love my kids dearly, don't get me wrong, but if I could turn back the hands of times, I believe I would have listened to my doctor and I wouldn't have had no kids, because some days I don't feel like doing nothing, and my kids deserve better. That's all I'm going to say. They deserve better than what I can give them right now. They really do deserve better, but you know, I love them, they love me, and you know, we're gonna rock this thing out until we can't rock it out no more. Hopefully I was clear and gave you my side of lupus. If you would like to know more, just let me know, and then I could try to go into more details about it. But that's just my opinion about my lupus and what I had to go through and stuff. And yeah, that just sums it up. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy, and please subscribe to my videos. Thank you. Bye.